I feel you. Holy shit. I know I've said this before, but holy shit. Look who I got. This is number 3 of 5 on a fine Saturday. We are with, oh my God, I'm losing my ever-loving mind today. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very sumo special guest, the American Sumo, Mike Gamble. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today, sir.
Of course, man. I've said this to you before, but you've been a fan since day one, and the support literally means more than you know. You were there when I was the wannabe Kevin Owens and the singlet and the long shorts, and you were still behind it when I was trying to figure myself out. So it really means a lot. It's the least I could do, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, we love, and I know, and when I say we, not just me, the fans that are watching, we love indie wrestling. So it's that environment and seeing the brand new men and women that are coming up. I fucking eat that shit up, man. I really do. I don't need the big stage. I like it, but I don't need the big stage. So seeing a guy like Mike Gamble come through those doors, and I've seen you even setting up the cage for Northeast Wrestling a bunch of
Yeah.
times and stuff like that, setting up the ring. Dude, doing the work, doing the drives. That's no bullshit when it comes to Mike Gamble. I'll tell you that right now. So,
Thanks, man.
seeing you from day one, literally, like day
Yeah.
one, uh, me and Mr. Perez, I had him on earlier. We were talking about the mixture that you had with Robbie the Giant. That was fun as fuck.
Oh, blast.
But what I would like to do is we peel it back a little bit. We talk
Sure.
a little gamble. We share with the fans maybe how your upcoming became, because that's what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
So I'd like to start with you're based out of the Rhode Island, the XWA Center. Could I say that is your home base right there?
Yeah, that is the XWA Event Center is where I train. The Kingdom training.
Mm,
Yes.
man, now, fantastic trainers. We talked about them, and I talk about them to a lot of men and women. But for those that have missed or just don't give a shit about my episodes, could you just give us a little insight about who the trainers are that you get the tutelage of?
Yeah, so my trainers are former ROH World Champion Matt Taven, along with Vinny Marcellia, who's also a multiple-time Ring of Honor a triple tag champion. They are the best trainers in the world, and I've really find myself just so fortunate to. You gotta think like there are trainers and then there are trainers, and when I was searching out wrestling schools to train, these were the guys. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett also was a part of that training as well. These were guys that were on TV, and they were New Japan tag team champions at the time, and they were flying to Japan and coming back to train, and they were on TV. And I said, if these guys really must love wrestling if they're doing all that and getting all of this opportunity and still coming back to teach guys what they know. I figured, like, how could you go wrong with that? So that was sort of my decision making when I found them, and also I had been fans of them forever. I had been watching them at the Top Rope shows, and even before then, when it was Yankee Pro Wrestling, I was going to those shows. So it was an easy call for me to make.
So you've actually seen, again, I'm seeing the evolution of Mike Gamble. You've seen the evolution, and I've seen a little bit of it, but Vinny Marsalia, when he he's something now, boy, is he
Amazing.
something.
Amazing.
But you've seen that evolution of Vinny, and isn't that something amazing though? You see the evolution of a superstar right now on TV, and like you
Mhm.
said, tag team champions out and freaking New Japan and all of that stuff and ROH and all of that cool shit. But you've seen the evolution of him as a wrestler. Now you're under the tutelage of a guy like Vinny, Matt Taven. You mentioned Mike Bennett, TKO. He kind of stomped the sassy horse. He kind of stomps in every so often. It's got to be just so surreal, and what a great pick of a school to jump into.
Yeah, and not only that, but those as great of the accolades that you just described them, which is completely true. Not only that, I got to like get in the car with Vinny while he was, figuring out who the horror king was, and it turns out it's just him. You know what I mean? That's who he is. But having those conversations with him, I was literally there. So not only do I get that tutelage, but I got to sort of experience vicariously of exactly what he went through, and I was able to take a lot of mental notes. And like you said, those guys are great, but they also want us to go to other schools as well. They're all for going to pop in to see Ryan Drew. They're all for going up to see Brian Fury at the Chaotic Training Center. So I've been very fortunate to not only have my trainers who are out of this world amazing, but I've also been able to get some knowledge from the best that New England has to offer, and not just New England, but probably the world. I mean, Brian Fury's been to the training center multiple times, so it's to be wrestling in New England now is it's a blessing for sure.
It's pretty crazy because the way wrestling has been flourishing over the past 5 to 10 years has been something that is amazing, because you wouldn't be able to go to so many indie shows. And I know indies always existed, but it was a different time where it was separated, even before, 10 years ago, where it was the territory thing and all of that shit. But now that it's evolved, I could go see a show between Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, just those 3 states alone. I could go to a show almost every single day of the week, all depending on where you live. I mean, for real, it's amazing what New England wrestling is right now.
You could literally drive 5 hours in any direction, and you'll see 10 shows in each direction every weekend. So the opportunity is there, and that's why I've stayed in New England as long as I have.
Now, I'm kind of curious of the evolution of character. That's what we really that's why we pull the curtain back just a little. We don't want to get too detailed into your personal life. We stalk you. We follow you enough on like the face page and stuff like that. But
sure.
Now you're upcoming. You're a student at XWA. You pick a name and it becomes Mike Gamble. Take us through that thought process of Mike Gamble as a character.
That goes back like way before training. That's like the super fans created character in SmackDown versus Raw. Coming up as like looking up cool ass names. And then, I think I was watching highlight videos on YouTube of a guy, I believe his name was David Gamble, and he was a defensive end for the Carolina Panthers back in the day, and he was nasty. I went to school for sport management, so like my world for 4 years was sports besides wrestling. So I find David Gamble, and he's a beast, and I was like, of course, I'm a college student, all I do is play video games. I'm like, that's gonna be my guy. And I started thinking, like, how do I apply that to myself if I ever was to eventually wrestle? And I was like, well, I've always been the guy that's tried to, even though I've always been the biggest, I've tried to work twice as hard as everybody else. I've always tried to be the first person in, the last person out of every situation. And that's just the way I was raised. So when I picked Gamble, it was almost out of irony, because I never needed to gamble on anything in my entire life. I've always just worked my ass off for it. So I remember I used to go around the college campuses saying, like, Gamble, when it comes to Mike Gamble, there's no luck necessary, and then no luck necessary turned into it's just that easy. And that was like 2008, 2009.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when I finally started training, we had to do opening promos. And that was, I said Mike Gamble, it's just that easy. And then that was who I was. So,
so you're randomly just cutting promos, trying to think of your wrestling persona, if you will.
Yeah, I was doing that in like college.
That's effing hilarious. I find that comical, man.
Dude, I was doing that in like like grade school, man. Like when No Mercy came out, I was in school with like graph paper writing down like names of created guys and storylines, and this guy's gonna feud with Austin, and this is gonna be how it goes down, and Austin's gonna get screwed, and this guy's gonna be behind it all. You know what I mean? Like stupid stuff like that. I was doing that since I was, God, 10 or 11.
Well, it just sounds like Uncle Vince and Mr. Triple H should just hire you as part of the creative. Maybe we could get some fucking juices flowing over there, huh?
Dude, I love to write, man. It's one of the passions of mine. I have sort of a I think very cinematically, so I'm always thinking of like cool camera angles to film promos with, and cool shots, and maybe this kind of musical tone here to really make this scene or this emotion pop. I've always thought like that since I was a kid, so it's really been kind of easy to transition into the actual wrestling.
I seen I seen what you did there. I'm
Yeah.
not that bright, but I'm not that dumb either. um,
It was something I feel like I was made for.
and doing promos is a big part of being a wrestler and creating a character and trying to elevate yourself. So that obviously came very natural. Now coming in though, when you want to, how do I put this? When you want to be able to perform to your best, but you have to cut a promo, does it jumble up your move set and like my promo? Like I've got this promo set, I've done it like I've run it over my head or what have you. But now you've got to put it all together. Do you ever get it all jumbled up? Does it kind of?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like to go out there and say like you're never not nervous, or you know, it's it happens. Sometimes things get, you start to get jumbly, and you have to realize, and Matt really and Vinny really helped me realize this, is you have to take a step back, and realize that it's the emotion that's going to drive the promo. It's not the words. Like you can't babble somebody with bullshit. Um, you just need to stay true to your character, and you need to um, be passionate about what you're saying. And you could say the sky is falling, and if you're passionate enough about it, people will get behind you. Um, so yes, it does happen, and sometimes that's something I have to constantly remind myself to do. So it does happen, but
Mhm.
if you realize just how simple that you can make something with just the look of your face, sometimes that's all you need to say. Um, so that's kind of how you get past it.
I know I'm jumping ahead because I do want to catch on the transition of from Gamble to the American Sumo Mike Gamble. But
Sure.
when you started cutting those promos, you were looking totally different. You were looking very zen. You
Yeah.
were doing this whole ambiance thing, and you weren't saying a whole lot. But man, those, I'm telling you right now, just thinking back to those promos, they were fucking money, Mike. They
Yeah.
were so cool and put together and creative. And you seem to really have, because of the tutelage you started with getting in the Kingdom School, it's really crafted you as a well-rounded wrestler because you're using your creativity to your advantage. Like you just said, you've got to use yourself and kind of bring it out. Those promos, did you have any help getting them together? Was it like a brainstorm of you? Like, how did those promos kind of come out?
So I like to think of it as almost like a square. So I've got my opinion in one corner of how I think something should go. I've got my trainers in another corner. I've got my non-wrestling friends in another corner who know nothing about wrestling, be that, family. And then I've got some non-wrestling fans who are non I've got friends who are not in the wrestling business, but are fans of wrestling, and I've reached out to them as well. So I kind of take like the best parts of all of that, and I kind of find like a common middle ground, or if I need to skew in way or another I can kind of pull apart and add and do that. So that's kind of how I formulate a promo. Some stuff I do come up with by myself, but I mean, I love getting help. I love the community aspect and the of togetherness feeling of sitting down with your wrestling friends and coming up with some stuff.
Well, on here specifically, we talk about support group. It could be, or support system, I should say, because wrestling is a very hard endeavor. We all know that, but without a support group, it's a little missing piece of that package as a wrestler, because that can sometimes really elevate you to a different plateau or platform and keep rising you. You just said it right there. You're reaching out to different brothers and sisters, may it be family, may it be out of the business, may it be in the business, but you're utilizing that support system. And it seems like you have a great one to actually kind of throw ideas and get ideas. And so am I wrong on saying, though, that it's a very important piece to that puzzle, though?
No, you're absolutely right. And I've been very fortunate to have a family that is the reason I got into wrestling. So some like my dad and my brother are huge wrestling fans. My mom, not so much, but she was a dancer, so she kind of understands performance. So if there's something specific that I need to, maybe it's not looking right, or like I'll send it to her and say, does this look weird to you? uh
That's
because
awesome.
that's a fan's perspective, right? and
Yeah.
and that's the reason why we do it.
Mhm.
So who better to get advice from than somebody that you trust who knows nothing about wrestling?
Man, no wonder why you've kind of you popped out of nowhere and then you just elevated really quickly. No wonder why, because you've got all of this cool support system going on. You've got such fantastic trainers and everybody, not just the trainers though. Like I've talking to Jose Perez. I've known Jose for a few years now, and man, what a cool guy to bounce ideas off of and try to. Could you talk to us, the fans, about Jose Perez? Because we did touch on Mike Sumo earlier. Or the American. See, I did it right there. I told you I was going to do
It's all
it.
right.
The American Sumo.
Everyone does it. It's awesome, and I love it. uh,
Yeah, talk to us about Jose Perez and what he's kind of helping hands in your career.
Jose was great, man. Especially when I first started, after the Chop Shop closed down, which is where Mike Bennett and Matt Taven were originally training. They started up with the XWA Event Center, and Jose was there on Thursdays, and he was there on like non-practice days to kind of help out. And I utilized him a ton, and he was kind of there in the transition of like the wannabe Kevin Owens, Mike Gamble, into what eventually would become the Sumo. And I remember having hour long, 45-minute, hour long conversations with him about like just throwing ideas at the wall, trying to clean up some of the awkwardness and new guyness that every wrestler goes through, from me to Sami Zayn, to Triple H, like you name it. We all kind of go through that awkward period in wrestling where we're cutting those classic promos like, you're going to be looking up at the lights when the ref's counting, you know what I mean? Like that's it makes me cringe. And we all get caught up in it from time to time, and it pops each other. But he was kind of there to help me clean up some of that stuff. I'm very fortunate. He helped me through a lot of my matches on Thursday Night Throwdown when I would literally be shaking to go out there and do my thing. I didn't know anything. I still don't know anything, but like I didn't know anything back then. I was just trying to remember what I was gonna do. You know what I mean? Like, what's the next thing? Which I still do, but yeah, he's been hugely instrumental in that period of time. During my training and in those very beginning shows where I'm performing in front of a public crowd, which is terrifying at first. And he was there for that. So I'm very thankful for him.
That's another topic. And I love Jose to pieces. He is such a fantastic guy. Little rougher on the edges, carries a flaming hand. You gotta watch out for that freaking thing. Holy crap. But now you're a student at the XWA. Thursday night throwdowns. I was going to like every single one for months at end, but it became too far of a drive for myself. It's like about 2 hours for me. Started to wear on a kid for a bit, you know? So
Wow.
I had to pull back. Yeah. I had to pull back.
What you were doing.
Yeah, man. It was a blast. My dad was going with me, and I can't even believe he lasted that long. Holy shit. But those for $5, boys and girls, you go out to the Rhode Island area, and I never say this right, West Warwick.
Yeah, it's Warwick. Yeah, close enough.
3 Bridal Ave, $5 on a Thursday. It starts about 7:30, 8 o'clock, somewhere around there.
Yeah, about 7:30.
Holy shit, what a good time for $5. And the names that you see that are mixed with the students, it's amazing. It's such a fun time. But that's where I started seeing you, was at the Thursday night throwdowns. Now, as you start evolving, the crowd, you're starting to get the crowd. Now, my curiosity with the men and women is, because I've seen you since day one, when did you really start to hear us giving you some of those accolades and kind of feeding off that? Because that's not always the easiest thing to start to do when you first start.
Yeah, it was, man, I think it was right around the time I started teaming with Dex. We were still very new. We got kind of thrown together on a whim at an NEW show. And it didn't really work. You know, we didn't know each other, and it was getting kind of weird. But then we started getting booked at Pioneer Valley Pro Wrestling, and Hammer decided to put us together. And he kept with it. He said, no, this works. You just gotta figure it out. And we somehow made it out. We somehow made it work, like a degenerate gambler and a sumo starting out as like business partners, becoming best friends, and now we're doing stupid stuff together. So that's really where things started. I started hearing the crowd, especially when we had our match against the Court at NEW, which, holy crap, I had never heard a crowd as big as they were that night. And we had some really cool stuff planned where like we knew we had to go all out for this. We knew this was sort of a big match for us. We were kind of heels, I guess. We were supposed to be bad guys, but the Court were bad guys.
They're jackasses. Let's just put it out there, okay?
So we go out there, and the crowd we started doing our thing, which wasn't too far skewed from what we normally did, but the crowd started reacting very positively to it. So we realized then, like, okay, we understand what's going on here. Now it's time to turn it up to 11. We've kind of figured out we figured out what the crowd wants, and by association, what works for me, what works for Dex, and then what works for us as a team. So by doing the tag team stuff, I actually figured out how my own stuff works a little bit.
Wow. That's actually very interesting. I've never heard it put in that perspective, because if you don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, the tag team was called the Perfect Gamble, correct?
That's right.
Wow. It was made up of American Sumo Mike Gamble and Dexter Lou, the degenerate Dexter Lou.
Degenerate.
And yeah, man, whenever I seen you guys come together at XWA, I'm like, hey, Pop, this is kind of weird. But then as it kind of really, you guys were pushing it a little bit more. And like you said, you had to kind of find your niche there. And then when I started seeing you in the Northeast Wrestling and then the PvP, and I started seeing it more though, I'm like, you know what? This is actually kind of working now, because man, Dexter Louis is such a pain in the ass. We like to hate him, but man, we're still cheering for you guys. It was just so weird.
So that was kind of like the other part of it is, and this happens a lot with wrestling, as I'm sure other wrestlers have told the same story, is when you're trying to figure out what works, you really just need to look at who you are, right? And so our tag team dynamic between Dex and I in the ring is not different whatsoever than how we act in real life. Dexter is one of my best friends, and he is the biggest pain in the ass you will ever meet, right? And but that's the dynamic, and that's why I think what we do in the ring works so well is because it's literally what we do when we go and get coffee at Brood Awakenings in Cranston, you know what I mean, or Johnston. So that was a part of figuring out who I was too. Is just that's the answer. It's you. You crank it up to 11.
And I know you're a sumo as a character, but they say, and I hope the people that watch this don't find this repetitive, but it is a great message because we're hearing it firsthand again from a guy who started as a student, couldn't really find his niche, became, a different thing, found it, and is just skyrocketing right now. And we're talking about just finding yourself, maybe taking a piece of yourself and not having to create a character from brand spanking new, a shiny new character from scratch.
Yeah.
And you're utilizing yourself to project to us, the fans, even though you have the name, the American Sumo, you're still being yourself in the ring at the same time. Mm-hmm. And man, the fans are absolutely eating it up because we absolutely love you. Good or bad, we're still behind you. Like even at the WMW show, the PvP show, you come out and we had an open challenge. And here comes Cody Lee. You just like brushed this kid right the F off. And we were all about Cody Lee. And then you came out later in the night to do double duty. And you were with, and we're definitely getting to that tag team championship match. You didn't know who was coming out those doors, if you will, because there was a little mix up in schedule or what have you, card subject to change. And out comes Waves and Curls that are making a splash right now. And they've come out of the XWA Center too. And I find that very intriguing. And I know, again, I jump timelines and we're going to get back to some of that stuff. How was it when you're there with your strap, you're ready for a defense, you're expecting two guys that was already on the bill, they're scratched off, here comes some two XWA guys coming right at you, and the crowd, oh my God, you heard the crowd, holy shit.
Yeah, I heard the crowd. You guys were unbelievable that night. It was cool. And honestly, that was the last match that we've had since the unfortunate outbreak. So leaving off on that kind of memory is the reason why I haven't gone completely crazy yet. I would say if it was any two other guys, I would have been pretty mad. But there's a certain amount of respect that you can't deny, and you have to have when two guys who are training at the same school as you take advantage of a challenge like that. And it caught me off guard a little bit. You can tell I'm kind of like, I couldn't believe it, but at the same time I was like, okay, I know these guys aren't here to just work, they want to go. So I said, let's go. If it was anybody else, I wouldn't have had to work so hard. But because it was those guys, I give them all the credit in the world. They're trying to make a name for themselves. They're everywhere and anywhere that you'll find a wrestling ring right now. And despite the fact that they had the stones to come out and do that, there's a modicum of respect, especially as a sumo that I have for that.
Yeah, and hey, man, let's all be honest right now, because for the men and women that weren't there, we had a hell of a time. It was Western Mass Championship Wrestling. What a fantastic time we had. And wait. See, I get these events mixed up. Was that PvP that you went against Waves and Crows or WMW?
Sure. Yeah,
See, that's
I think it
that
was PvP. I don't remember.
that's what I'm
Could have been,
saying.
no, it could have been Western Mass. I don't know.
But anywho, yeah,
I was there. I was there representing PvP. I will tell you that much.
that's right. And there's this whole storyline thing, which you guys and girls take us on a hell of a ride on that whole end of it. But man, I'm telling you guys, what a hell of a show. We have a great time at the Pulaski Club, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
man, oh man, do we have a hell of a time. And me seeing you with a championship over your shoulder at any promotion is it gives me goosebumps if I want to boo or cheer you no
Oh,
matter
thanks.
what, man. I mean, for real, it's like holy shit. But my point being that Jalen's only 4'8" and he came right up to you like he was as tall and as big as you. That dude is no joke. That little Jalen's crazy.
Again, anybody else, I would have it would have sent me through the roof.
Okay, now
But
I believe I have some footage of when Jalen on the intro, he's doing his floss thing, and you're got this look at. I'm gonna share that footage. I gotta find it because your face
yeah,
is absolutely money.
yeah, I was fine up until he started dancing. I was like, all right, I've had this.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
those guys, they gave us something, man. There was
yeah.
something that we weren't expecting. I know at least I wasn't. But I'm glad we got the win. So
Ooh, man, good effing times. Holy crap! And again, that's the last show I've been to, and I'm so glad I was able to attend because those memories at that show specifically will last me a long time because there was some cool shit that happened that night. And, Gamble and Chuck O'Neal being tag team champions and seeing Waves and Crows come out, that was a moment that you'll never witness if you're not there. So that was one of those moments in time for us that was special. And man, the sumo, I have to digress because you have gone through a transformation yourself, not only in gimmick or character, if you will, but a body transformation. You're kind of bringing it down. The pounds have kind of been shedded off, not by lack of effort, because only you can make it happen. That's very evident.
yeah,
Uh, please describe to the fans how difficult it is to try to transform yourself as a physically as a gimmick or a character and keeping a schedule for wrestling and whatever your personal life is.
yeah, man. It just had to become a thing. The hard part wasn't the working out and eating healthy. It was at first, but the hardest part was the decision to say, yes, I'm going to do this. That was the hardest part. And I think that's the hardest part for anybody. You want to make a change. Your body is just very naturally resistant to change. We're all creatures of habit and we want to do the same things. And I got very comfortable with that. And it wasn't until I got hurt. Again, this happens to a lot of the guys is you get hurt. You can't do anything. You've got a big match in a couple weeks. You don't know how you're gonna do this. So I had a lot of time to think about that, and it just made me so crazy. And I said, this is not who I am. This isn't what I stand for. So it was at that moment I made the decision to say, okay, from now on, this is how it's going to be. And this is not a diet. It's not whatever. It's a lifestyle change. I said, you just got to change your lifestyle. I said, be who you think you're meant to be in both wrestling and in your personal life, because this right now is not really who you are. So show people who you are. So that was kind of the conversation that I had with myself in order to just pull myself out of the excessive eating. And I love food. I'm a sumo man. I love food and I'll eat food. But with that transition and lifestyle change, you have to change your thinking habits as well. And food is to be enjoyed, but it's also something that keeps you alive. It's your fuel. So I started looking at food that way. This is fuel to get to the next workout. This is fuel to help my muscles recover tonight. So I'm going to drink this shake and I'm going to do this and do that, and then I'll feel better in the morning. And I didn't do it all in one. I didn't just say, "All right, here we go."
Right.
It was like, okay, next week I'm going to work out twice and I'm going to eat healthy twice a week. You know what I mean? So for 2 days out of the week, I'm going to do it. Okay, I did it. And I lost a pound. Awesome. Now we're going to try 3 weeks. And now we're going to try 4 weeks. And now we're going to try 4 weeks and maybe let's throw a morning running session in there. So it was kind of like I very much had to crawl before I could walk, before I could run. I feel like that's just the best way to do it. Some people have the ability to do it just like that, but I didn't. So I did a lot of research, asked a lot of friends, and next thing I know, I'm down 100 pounds, and I was like, holy shit, this is not in like 11 months, you know what I mean? And I didn't set lofty goals for myself. I was just like, I think I was 400, like, I'm gonna a little inside baseball for you. My shoot weight was like 423 pounds, and I was like, let's get to 400, or let's get to 399. I said, because 400's not good, not good enough. So I got to 399, and I said, yes, let's go. I said, now I've got a week off in July. Let's see if I can get to 375. And if you can get to 375, you go on vacation for a week. Anything goes. I made it to 375. I said, hell yeah. Now let's go 350 by Christmas. And I got to 347 by Christmas.
Wow.
And I was, hell yeah. And I said, you know what? I said, you know what's close right now is that big 100 mark.
Yeah.
So January rolls around and I was like, let's do this. I had a break with my family and I ate everything under the sun and it was awesome. I still had a lot of self-control, like
Yeah.
I stayed well, but I had my fun. And then, I think it was about a month ago is when I finally hit that 100-pound mark. So it was little by little, one thing at a time, making slight changes to hit big goals.
Mm-hmm. All I have to say, because I've never had a challenge, obviously, I weigh like 35 pounds. Big congratulations for the effort it takes to take off 100 pounds, my man. That is big fucking congratulations right there.
Thank you. I still have a long way to go, but I feel like I'm in a really good place right now to really just hit the ground running. I feel like this last year, these 100 pounds were just prep work. Now's the real work.
Could you explain to the fans or the peers or men and women that are just maybe wanting to get into the wrestling business, that might want to go to the XWA Center, that are a bigger stature? How does it feel now comparing to when you were really working in the ring till now when you've lost just a slight over 100 pounds? What's it do for your ring work?
Crazy. It's just crazy how easily I could do things pretty comfortably before. Now it's just like I feel like I can just soar all over the place, and really I can't. But compared to what I was, the amount of effort that I have to put into any sort of athletic skill, whether it be jumping or running or falling, is so much easier. The tough part was kind of getting used to it. There was a point where I was like almost overextending myself, and I felt like Bambi trying to walk for the first time. I was over rotating and landing on my ass, and I was like, all right, I can't do that again. That was not a back roll, that was a back bump. So, but once I kind of, and it's still a little bit, I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit,
Mhm.
but um, yeah, it was kind of weird at first, but now I feel amazing where I'm at. I really do. And to know that it only gets better from here is
Yeah.
like, I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
It, taking the drive in a new car, trying to get used to it and getting those things, man. Hey,
Yeah,
again, big congratulations. And it
thank you.
perseverance is a tough thing to push through. And Mike Gamble, I have never heard one person ever, and I don't care where I go, what promotion, who they are, if they're a student, if they're a veteran of the game, if you will, in our area. I have never once ever heard anybody say one fucking bad word about one Mike Gamble. You're very loved in that whole community, man. I'm telling you.
Thank you, man. That again, that comes from the way I was raised and my training. You know,
Absolutely.
we're Taven is not one to let us slip in any way whatsoever. He's the best trainer ever. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But if you do something stupid, he's gonna let you know about it. So don't do anything stupid. You know what I
Don't
mean?
do
Keep
stupid
keep
stuff.
keep this closed and keep these open, and you really can't go wrong.
That's some fine advice for one who's gone through it. And this is exactly why I do this stuff I love the upcomers, man. This is the shit that kind of gets me excited. I absolutely love. Yeah, we all want to talk to the stars and maybe get some of their background. But for me,
Sure.
man, the upcomers is where it's at. And I absolutely love every second of it. And I want to talk about winning tag team gold because when you got into Pioneer Valley Pro Wrestling, holy cow,
Yeah.
you ended up becoming La Champion, if you will, because you get that gold. Take us on a ride because who was it and where was it? Because I don't get to go to all the shows, and they kind of, were at a mall for a bit. They were at American Legion for a bit. Now they're at the Pulaski. Give us a little rundown on how those tag team gold got in your possession, and
Oh,
who was with your tag team partner.
yeah, so this is actually a great story, and I don't know if anybody really got this with the promo that we shot, but this is a true story. So we it was Dexter and I at the Eastfield Mall. We were not scheduled to be there because I had a real life bachelor party to go to. My best friend was getting married, and he had a bachelor party at one of the conventions in Framingham at the hotel there, the Sheridan, I think it's called. So I was like, "Look, man, this is real important to me. This is my best friend. I'm in the dude's wedding party. Can we make uh, thing work?" And so Dexter and I, we were supposed to we were on the show that night, and I literally went to the bachelor party for like the day, drove to Framingham, got in my clothes, met Dexter in the back. It was literally perfect timing. Got in the back, changed, ran to Gorilla, ran out,
Oh my God.
kiboshed the main event, submitted our contracts that granted us a title shot at any point in time, and we hit our finish on Tunis and Bacon, and we took the titles, and I went I took the title, I took my bag, I threw it all in the car, I got it in my bachelor party clothes again, and I drove back to Framingham, and I showed up in the middle of the Sheraton with holding my title in front of everybody to see. And I got like all my friends were there, and I just got like the biggest like standing ovation you've ever seen. It was unbelievable. Uh,
That is
yeah,
that's
that's a
amazing.
true story.
That is
That's a
fucking
true story.
amazing. Oh my
I,
God.
somehow turned a non-event into a ruse that Dexter and I had created to have us win the titles. But the ruse turned out to be real. because I really had a bachelor party to go to, but I'm like, look, I got a commitment, man. I gotta Dexter and I are gonna steal these titles tonight. Everyone thinks I'm here, so I'm gonna win the titles and then I'm gonna come back. And he's like, do it, man. Do it for me. Do it for my wedding. Bring that title to my wedding. And I did. I brought the title to his wedding.
Oh my God. The pop must have been probably one of the biggest pops you've ever heard in your life. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable day, and I can't believe Dexter came up with that.
now, nowadays, you're Les Champions Tag Team Champions with Chuck O'Neill, Cold Steel Chuck O'Neill. Give
That's
us
right.
a journey at what the hell happened, because I was a little amiss on seeing what's going on.
Well, here's the thing, man. Dexter's heavyweight champion at the time, right? And we're looking to make a power play at PvP because we're employed by Alex, and you've got to honor that agreement to a certain extent. So we figured, what better way to really gain the most out of PvP is to have all the belts. So we lost the belts, unfortunately, in August the next year. Dexter was still heavyweight champion, though, so we figured, let's find somebody who can fill this void so Dexter can focus on his main event commitments, and that's so I can still be competitive in a tag team division. And Chuck came along at the right time, and he signed on, and that's kind of how that happened. And then our first time teaming, we won the titles back.
Yeah. Who was it? Who'd you win them back from?
We won them back from Heck Dynamite and Just Neff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, how difficult is it, because you're a bigger guy, and do you feel more comfortable going against a bigger opponent or a smaller opponent? Does it matter because you're getting the W anyways because you're the American Sumo?
No, I mean, you got to know your opponent, man. You got to know yourself before you can know your opponent. So I know myself, so I'm able to adjust the way that I need to handle certain situations, whether it be a small guy or a bigger guy. So while I don't necessarily have a preference, I am a fan of competition. So having the opportunity to wrestle another big guy just to see who stands tall at the end, I like that feeling just a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's the selfishness in me, I guess.
Now, the selfishness in me has been dying to ask you this one solid question since you said yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Have you ever seen a sumo with a beard? You have a full-on beard and you're a sumo. What the hell?
Dude, I've been inside and I've been lazy, so I don't know. I've been doing my workouts, but beyond that, I've just been like, whatever, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a sumo, but I'm still an American, and I like having a beard. It hides my fat face. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
So,
it works. So
ladies like it. You know what I mean?
hey, I feel you, and I am not going against the grain on that because I'm 35 pounds and you're a sumo. So let's not get into all that. Now, please explain to the fans. Take us on a journey. That whole transition. Why the American Sumo Mike Gamble?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think it just goes back to who I am as a person and who that extension is. Like, who's Mike Gamble? Beyond that, who's Mike Buckley? I don't know if I should say that, but whatever. Like, who am I as a person? Well, I have training in Kempo karate. I was an offensive lineman. I like to push people around. I have an amateur wrestling background. All of these things that I participated in while I was growing up kind of shaped who I am as a person. the ethics that go along with that, the camaraderie that goes along with that, the training that goes along with that, the amount of respect that goes along with that. And that's sort of what I identify with the most. That's my personality. And my personality, what's most relatable to that in a professional wrestling setting is a sumo. Um, so yeah, that's sort of how I came to it. And it wasn't just me, to be honest. It wasn't me initially because I
Mhm.
didn't see it initially. I have wonderful trainers. Um, it was sort of a collaboration of all of us.
Mm.
Um, they sort of came up with the initial idea, and then I said, well, let me make it a little bit more interesting. And that's sort of where the American sumo part comes to it. Because I'm not claiming to be Japanese. I'm not Japanese. Uh,
Wait, what? You're not Japanese?
I'm not Japanese, but
Oh,
there's a lot of American sumo down in the Polynesian Islands and the island of Samoa. And I identify with that culture huge. And I identify with the Japanese culture and the way they present themselves. Again, it all comes down to that respect
yeah.
and training and um, all of that we kind of put in this pot and stirred it together. And that's what popped out was the American sumo.
Nice. I, do you see this? Do you see this taking a ride for a little bit? The American Sumo gimmick or character, if you will.
Yeah, and I think now uh, I'm sort of in a little bit of a singles run at Northeast Wrestling. I've been having some more singles matches rather than usual. Now's the time, if anything, to just take it as far as we can go. And we've got some cool thing. I've got some cool things that I'm working on, um, merchandise and videos and matches. Hopefully that'll be coming down the pipeline soon. That's really gonna take sumo to the next evolution of uh, of the character.
Working on a different scale of Northeast Wrestling, and I don't mean to compare from one to another, but Northeast Wrestling, they have a stature about them where they bring in like the most amazing names on the circuit now,
Yeah.
even before they bring them in. I mean, you see the names there, so I mean, I'm not saying anything wrong, but is it a little different? Do your nerves get you just a little bit more like walking into the Northeast Wrestling doors than other places, or is it you're nervous and you feel it all over the place?
A little bit because you get a little nervous when you're around those guys because you're a fan first, right? That's why we're all fans. We all love wrestling. So you walk into a locker room with a guy that you grew up watching as a kid, and he's giving you advice on your match or walking you through a match or saying, hey, maybe you should try something like this. That's quite an experience because now you're not just fan and wrestler, you're like coworkers now.
Right.
So be, but on the flip side, being able to gain that knowledge and pick the brain of so many amazing people that and Northeast Wrestling has brought in has been such an incredible experience, and that's almost better than sometimes having a match. Sometimes I've had moments where some of those guys have told me something and it's changed my thinking around 150%. Where I was like, oh my god, I thought I knew this, but clearly I have no idea. I had no idea up until this point what I'm even talking about because this guy hits you with a line and you're just like, whoa,
Well,
all right. I got to take a second to let that sink in. Um, so it's a little nerve-wracking at first, but once you start that dialogue, man, especially the guys that have come in to Northeast, you're talking like the McFoleys and the Rey Mysterios and the Marty Skruls and the Jerry the King Lawlers.
mm,
Those guys are the coolest dudes on the planet, and they're so thankful that you're even coming up to them and saying, "Hey, I have a question about this. Is this right, or what do you think?" Um, and being able to take the best parts of those conversations just really, it takes your game so much further than you could have even
Absolutely.
imagined, and
Yeah,
sometimes
because
in a completely different direction.
right, because those little pieces, they always add up to something, which becomes the package of your character, or
Right.
the way you present a promo, or the way you would present a hammer lock or whatever. Those
Hmm.
little things, man, they all make that package of a wrestler. And but on Center Ring on Thursdays, I kind of hang out with Fog most times at Fog Man, and we kind of do the, when Northeast wrestling things come up, we try to pick matches, who's gonna win which match. And anytime that Dexter Lou and Sumo are on it, I'm like, well, first off, I never bet against Sumo. And second off, with Dexter Lou, he's going to cheat his ass off somehow and they're going to win. So no matter who they go against, I really don't care. So I always
Yeah,
pick guys no matter what.
I don't necessarily like what he does sometimes, but it's Dexter. I can't change Dexter, but I can roll with Dexter.
Hey, it puts the W's in the column, right? I mean, come on.
Kinda, you know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, Mr. Mike Sumo Mike, Mr. Gamble American, Mr. American
All of
Gamble.
the above.
Uh, this today, Saturday, this Saturday has been an extra special day because not only did I get you, I got Mr. Perez, I got Scotty Anarchy, I have a fan roundtable, I have Hamlet Hurts You. Today's a jam-packed day, but for you coming on my show, when you said yes, my friend, I was like, yes, because I've seen him since day one, and I hope he would remember seeing me and talking to me, and maybe he would come on and we can share some cool shit. And you
Yeah,
shared so much today, my friend, and I cannot thank you enough for sharing
of
with us fans.
yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, and I love having conversations with you. So this was an easy yes, man. Thank you for the support. Thank you for having me on my show. Thank you for everybody listening.
Yeah,
It really does mean the world to not just me, but anytime you go up to a wrestler and let them know how much you're a fan of their work, we really take that to heart. So I very much appreciate it, Don. Thank you.
absolutely. Now, before I do let you go, I want people that don't know where to find you or never heard of you, or the people that do know of you but don't know how to find you. Why don't you give us some of that social media jazz?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook if you search American Sumo Mike Gamble. I'm on Instagram at Sumo Mike Gamble. I am on Twitter at, I'm sorry, I'm on Twitter at Real Mike Gamble. I'm at Instagram at Sumo Mike Gamble. Yeah, I always get those confused because Real Mike Gamble is a thing from it's from the wannabe Kevin Owens days, and I can't change it. So whatever.
It is what it is sometimes.
But I'm very easy to reach. Feel free to anybody to comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I very much appreciate the feedback and the support.
Cool, man. We love some Mike Gamble. It's very evident that the American sumo, Mike Gamble loves us right back. And man, it was an amazing, dude, almost just shy of an hour. I really thought man, I got a packed day though. So, and plus,
Already an
I'm,
hour.
yeah, and I'm not that technologically sound. So it took us a little bit to connect. So that's my bad, not on you. That's my bad.
All good, man.
But man, what an amazing hour we had with the American Sumo. This was an absolute pleasure, an honor, and a privilege. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very sumo special guest, the American Mike,
I
the
like that.
American Sumo Mike Gamble. Thank you so very much, my man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.